Hello and welcome all to the 12th episode of the Aussie Footy Show presented by the BJ Show. Alright, Aidan, it's time for you to share all your round 8 reviews and thoughts and results and also restrictions for round 9. Alright, take it away. We are doing our 2-part series on one day, so 2 episodes are breaking half. Hopefully you enjoy you enjoy Aidan's thoughts as well, BJ, your host. Alright, Aidan, it's now time to take it away. We're looking forward to you sharing with your reviews and restrictions. Take it away.
Alrighty, Ben, thank you for having me on again. Let's get straight into my wrap of round 8. The first game of round 8 was Essendon versus North Melbourne, and Essendon and North Melbourne, both teams who look for a win in this one. Essendon running out of players very quickly with their injury concerns. North Melbourne just trying to build that winning culture right now so they can build into the future for that club who's been down for a very, very long time. Also, you can say the same about that with Essendon, 2 clubs who have been down the bottom for a very, very long time. And this was, well, it wasn't a big showpiece game with the top teams. It was still a close one with Essendon winning 9-11-65 to North Melbourne 9-8-62. And I can't say much else about this game without looking at my player of the game, who was Zach Merritt, who just willed and willed and willed and willed until Essendon finally got over the line in this one. So Zach Merritt had, as my player of the game, 117 AFL fantasy, 35 touches, 17 kicks, 18 handballs, 7 marks and 3 tackles in. But that doesn't tell the story of this game. And this is why I'm doing my player of the game first in this one, because he willed Essendon over the line. He got them over the line as he has done so many times previous in the last couple of years, and playing that job again on this night, especially in that final 10 minutes where North Melbourne looked like they were closing to get the win. So Essendon, very good job to you. North Melbourne, I need to talk about you for a second now. Just very concerned, still very concerned. I just don't know where this is coming from North Melbourne, but getting bad starts, getting back into games and then not being able to close the door on the opposition at the end. You know, another week just like we had with Port Adelaide, where you got back into the game, played a really good second and third quarter and just weren't able to close it out in the end. So North Melbourne need to fix their first quarters and their closing quarters, their final quarters, if they're going to be a genuine contender in, the coming week and for the rest of this year. But Essendon, as I said, big win, good win for the Bombers. Merritt, my player of the game, willing Essendon across the line. We now come to Friday night footy from Marvel Stadium, and it is St Kilda versus Fremantle in a game that really probably should not have been on a Friday night considering some of the blockbusters we have throughout this weekend. But it is a game that was played and won by St Kilda nonetheless. St Kilda 14-10-94, Fremantle 5-3-33. A really poor effort from Fremantle in this one. Hopes were so high for the Dockers at the start of the year. They are probably going to be looking to scrape into the second 8 at this rate if we keep up with this. Fremantle only managing 1 goal, 1 in that first half, 2 goals to 3-quarter time, and then only 3 goals in that final quarter when St Kilda scored 6. So the scoring volume in this game improved quite rapidly over time. So it was 2 goals 2 to 1 goal straight at quarter time, then 2 goals for St Kilda in that second quarter going to 4 goals. Fremantle only that 1 point, then 4 goals for St Kilda in the third as they extend the lead and close the game. Fremantle only able to get that 1 goal on the board. And then the final, as I said, Fremantle 3 goals, St Kilda 6 goals. So St Kilda thrown away the better team on the day. This is odd from St Kilda because this is the St Kilda that we come to know. They come out, they put in these random big performances where they look like they could be a genuine threat to anyone. But then the next weeks they fall away and go back to being the St Kilda of the historical record, where they are not closers, they are not finishers, and they are not starters either. So another big win for St Kilda. They improved their record now, so they're looking like a team who could shift into that next 4, so just outside of the bottom 4. Fremantle in danger of being a first out or second out again here this year. Really poor performance from the Dockers. There's not really much I want to say about Fremantle because I've said it over the last couple of weeks and in the past that this is just not what's required of a top team. You need to be winning these games. Fremantle, they're all good. They beat Adelaide last week, but they come in here, they lose to St Kilda quite badly. My player of the game in this one, Jack McRae from St Kilda, 139 touches, you're dreaming. 139 AFL fantasy, 38 touches, 19 kicks, 19 handballs, 6 marks, and 8 tackles. Now it is time for some Saturday footy, and we start down in the west of Victoria in Ballarat at Mars Stadium for the Doggies and the Power and Port Adelaide. They came into this game real strong in that first quarter, very, very tight, very strong. Even though they only had a 3-point lead at quarter time, they played a very, very good brand of football. It's just after that, it fell away to the Doggies. It all came the way of the Doggies after that as they cruise away from the Power in the second half. So they go 2 goals in the first, 6 in the second, 7 in the third, 5 in the final quarter. Power go 2 in the first, 1 in the second, 2 in the third, and only 3 points in that final quarter. So Doggies big winners, 90-point winners as they win 2011 131 to 5-11 41. So very, very, very strong 15-goal win for the Doggies. This is the Doggies saying, well, we are still a top team, even though we haven't had, we've had our internal issues. Bailey Smith didn't play last year. He's now moved to the Cattery, and Jamara Ugle-Hagan is having a leave of absence. We're still a genuine team to invest with, and after GWS last week win the Power here, they are a team who I think are going to be genuinely dangerous come the end of the year. Maybe one last shot at the premiership if things keep rolling in their favour for these Bulldogs. Because as I say, if you get in the 8, you've got a chance. That's their first goal, get in the 8. Are they going to get in the 8? I think they are. I think they've got a chance. Port Adelaide, though, very, very dismal from the Power. This is the poor effort. This is a weak effort. This is a Port Adelaide team who I think are willing to raise the white flag at this point and say season over, and it's time to move on from Ken Hinkley and bring in Josh Carr. Well, we'll go to my player of the game for this game now, and it will go to the Bond, who played an outstanding game all over the ground. 126 AFL fantasy, 3 goals, 23 touches, 15 kicks, 8 handballs, 4 marks, and 8 tackles. Second game on the Saturday was from the Adelaide Oval. It was the Crows and the Blues in what was looking like it would be one of the games of the round to go along with the triple header that I mentioned last week that we had. This was sort of the fourth part of that unofficially, but it was anything but what it turned out to be. Adelaide far and away the better side. Adelaide over Carlton's struggles against the Crows in Adelaide continuing. Another very, very big, very, very bad loss for the Blues. Adelaide winning this one 16-14, 110. The Blues 7-8-50. So Adelaide, they go in now. They go into the showdown very, very strong, very much on a high note there against the Blues. It was a real team effort from the Crows. It wasn't one or two players. Obviously we had our standout players who I'll get to in a second, but everyone, it felt like, played their part in this game for the Crows. And that's something that I just don't think I can say about the Blues. I think Patrick Cripps, in all his might, doing all he can. He's not getting a lot of help at the moment down there in Carlton. I think that's another thing of why they're not, really a contending team at the moment, is because their top players aren't getting the support from the second and third level guys. But Carlton, it's another loss. It's another bad loss in the second half, where they weren't really in the game for the most part. But there was a definite fall off after half time for the Blues, just like we saw in the early weeks of the year. So Crows strong winners in this one by 60 points. They'll go into the showdown on that high note. We'll go to my player of the game in this one, which is going to be Isaac Rankin. 120 AFL fantasy, 2 goals, 29 touches, 17 kicks, 12 handballs, 9 marks, and 2 tackles. The first of the 2 Saturday night election night options for your viewing was West Coast versus Melbourne, and while the race in the political campaign in Canberra was on, this one was a one-way street for the Demons. They go out to West Australia. Very, very strong team. Melbourne look like they're back. Max Gawn looks like he's back to his career best form, and that's what Melbourne need, is Max Gawn playing at his best. Even though some of their players, Oliver, Petrarca are struggling, it is Gawn pushing Melbourne to this comeback from where they were in the first couple of weeks, as well as some other players that they have around, such as Cozzy Pickett, Kate Chandler doing well as well for Melbourne. West Coast, again, a really, really, really poor performance from them. They were in the game for a while. They felt like they were coming back. I thought after half time they looked like they were going to be quite dominant in a position position to win this one, but in the end, falling away very early in that third quarter and letting Melbourne run away with it. So we'll go to the final score now. West Coast 11-10, 76. Melbourne 16-12, 108. The Demons running out 32-point winners in this one. Player of the game for this one, there can only be one option. It's Max Gawn. 158 AFL fantasy, 1 goal, 35 touches, 13 kicks, 22 handballs and 8 marks to go along with 47 hitouts for a dominant ruck display and a big game from the Melbourne big man. Now we have what was the game of the round. It was a Saturday night classic, another one to add to the collection between the Pies and the Cats at the MCG, and this one was one where it could have gone either way all night until one team went and took advantage and put the throttle down at the end, claiming the victory over the other. Whereas the scoreline, the score Manhattan reads it up and down all night. A little bit of Geelong, a little bit of Collingwood, back to Geelong, back to Collingwood, back to Geelong, and then Geelong getting away in the end with a win over Collingwood. They win this one 13-12-90 over Collingwood 12-15-87, and Collingwood, Jack Christ had a shot to win the game on the siren but missed it to the near side, and in the end that is what did the Pies in after their comeback effort was halted just at the last by a poor kick. But I think both of these teams, I think this could be a final that we see played out, either probably as a qualifying final or as a prelim, or possibly also as the grand final too. Two of the real old heads of the game, Collingwood and Geelong, the classic teams, the big rivals of the time, getting another thriller, as I said, another thriller to add to their collection. This one will be available in modern formats, so we will have video of this one, not like just the game on radio of yesteryear between these two sides. But well done to Geelong. Collingwood, I can't really say too much about the failure. It was just one bad kick at the end that did them in, but they played a very good game all night, unfortunately, I think at times. Then the real issue was letting Dangerfield go a little bit sometimes. Dangerfield getting the Cats over the line. Bailey Smith also doing his part as they get over the line. Geelong just too sexy on the night for the Pies. My player of the game in this one for Collingwood versus Geelong is going to be going to Bailey Smith of the Geelong Cats. 119 AFL fantasy, 1 goal, 34 touches, 22 kicks, 12 handballs, 6 marks and 2 tackles. Now we start our Sunday footy and we get to the Battle of the Bridge, the Sydney Derby, whatever they're calling it these days. I don't know. Nobody really knows. Nobody really cares that much. It is always just a great game of footy between the Swans and the GWS Giants, and that's all people really ever care about. This one played at the SCG, the home of the Sydney Swans, and it was looking to be a game that many people had on the cards as a great game. And I think Sydney just said, well, you want a great game, well, we want to win, so we're going to make sure we just play out our game and we get the win, and that's exactly what they did. They win this one. Very dominant in that first quarter. GWS coming back through the back end of the first quarter into the second quarter, but then Sydney building a lead and being able to hold it for most of the game after that. So Sydney end up winning this game 12-15-87 to GWS 10-13-73. Sydney winning by 14 points there. So Sydney, big win, good win for them. Their season's starting to come together a little bit now. They're still down there. They've only got 3 wins on the year, but we're starting to see a little bit of improvement from them after their loss to Gold Coast. GWS just sitting in the 8 on 4 wins at the moment as well. We'll get to the later after we do our round 9 previews as well. But Sydney, very good team, doing business as business, getting the win, getting their season back on track, and being able to build a little platform now, hopefully, to get back in. Because right now, there's a big group of teams who are sitting on 4 wins and looking to be in that top 8 at the moment. So Sydney right now are only really a game out. Even after their horrible start to the year, they are, as I said, 1 game out of the top 8. GWS, I think they probably should have done a lot better. I think this was a very winnable game for them. I think this is one that they'll look back on and say, we should have had it, and yes, they probably should have had it based on the stories of the teams going into this game. GWS, if they're going to be treated as a top side, which many people do, I don't think they wouldn't be. I think they would have won this one. I think that GWS now is going to be a consolidation effort across the middle year where they don't try and do too much. They just focus on getting wins on the board, doing what it takes to get wins on the board and consolidate their position in the top 8. So we'll go to my player of the game now. We have to go a long way down the list to find him, but it is James Jordan of the Sydney Swans. Jordan had 83 AFL fantasy, so only 83 fantasy. Normally we see a lot of players in the 100. There was only 3 players in the 100 in this one. They were all GWS players. Sydney's highest scorer was Heaney on 86, but we are going with Jordan today. As I said, 83 AFL fantasy, 2 goals, 18 touches, 8 kicks, 10 handballs, 6 marks, and 3 tackles for the mid-forward from the Sydney Swans. Our second game on the Sunday. Hawthorn versus Richmond, and this one, really, there was only one winner. It was one-way traffic all throughout the afternoon as Hawthorn come in and run over Richmond, winning this one by 65 points, 16-13, 109 to 6-8, 44. Hawthorn showing again why they are a contender this year. How they've been able to jump the queue and how they've been able to sustain it is anyone's guess, but they are a team who are genuine again. They are back in business down at Hawthorn, down at Box Hill. And for Richmond, again, this is the learning curve for them, I think. I talk about learning curves a lot, but I think Richmond, realising that their efforts, when they put in a good effort, they keep a game right close like they did against Melbourne. But when they're just that little bit off, they can get blown out quite easily, and that's what happened here. So they've got to find what makes them tick to get over that good effort line and make strong contests against all the oppositions that they play, because I've seen them do it before and I know they can do it, but they just didn't bring it against the Hawks this week. Hawthorn, as I said, strong win for them. You know, they're a contender, not much can be said about them, but they get the key win here, and that's what's important for them. They win the game over a lower end team, which is going to be the wins that matter when we look at the top 8 come September, because you know, we can split wins between top 8 teams all we want, but you have to be winning against teams in that bottom 4, probably that bottom 6 or bottom 8 to see where you really are going to shake out at the end of the year. So we'll go to my player of the game now for this one, which will be loading in shortly, and it will be Josh Battle from Hawthorn, 120 AFL fantasy, 33 touches, 20 kicks, 13 handballs, 12 marks for a triple-double effort for Josh Battle. And now we have come to the final game of round 8, a Sunday night game from the Gabba in Brisbane. Brisbane Lions versus the Gold Coast Suns in the Q Clash. This was the third part of the triple header that we were looking forward to this week. And it started off looking like it could have been a Gold Coast day, but Brisbane holding them first quarter was very, very close before Lions so they were going to jump on the gas and take the game away from the Suns throughout the second and third quarters. Brisbane winning this game by 17 points, 9-12, 66. Gold Coast 7-7, 49. These are going to be 2 contenders at the end of the year. I don't care what anyone says. These are going to be 2 contenders. Brisbane getting the better number over Gold Coast on this one. But Gold Coast, again, a team who I think could still be a very, very dangerous playing group at the end of the year if things go their way through the mid-year. If they can avoid injuries, keep their form consistent, they will be playing finals for the first time on the Gold Coast. I think that they could easily get one home final if they keep their form up. Brisbane, again, the Premiers come in, do what they need to do. They get a job done over their Queensland rivals. It's a big win for Brisbane. That sets their season up quite well. They've had some shock losses to big sides and some shock wins against other sides. So for Brisbane, they continue again, and they are a team to be reckoned with in 2025. So Brisbane Lions, again, your victors by 17 points in the Q Clash from the Gabba. The player of the day for me is Will Ashcroft, 119 AFL fantasy, 34 touches, 19 kicks, 15 handballs, 6 marks, and 3 tackles. Now we come to round 9, and I will preview all the games in the round for you. So to start off, we have Fremantle versus Collingwood on the Thursday night. That is going to be a special game. That could be a very spectacular game for Fremantle, going home to Optus Stadium and knocking off the Pies if they're able to do that, although I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think that Collingwood are just too strong for Fremantle at this point in time. I think Collingwood too good and too consistent, so they get the win here over the Dockers. We move down to the Friday night game, St Kilda versus Carlton. St Kilda having the win over the Dockers the previous Friday in round 8. Carlton coming in after the loss to the Crows, but as I said, St Kilda are a very, very up and down team, so they've had their up, now they're going to have their down. The Blues probably will bounce back in this one. They will come hard at the Saints and they will get the job done here. So Carlton, the winner in that one. Then we go to the Saturday games. We start at the MCG with Melbourne and Hawthorn. And this is going to be a game where I think Hawthorn will look to be the better side, although Melbourne's very, very strong form could keep that game quite close. I think Hawthorn will get over the line. I think instead of it being a big game, a big win that everyone thinks, I think they'll get over the line by about 4 to 5 goal in the end over Melbourne. Second game on the Saturday is Essendon versus Sydney. I think Essendon, again, a good team, but not a great team. Sydney, definitely a great team. Sydney, even though they're lower than the Bombers on the ladder, the Bombers, as I said, lost a lot of players recently. Sydney's starting to find a little bit of something. Can they continue against Essendon? I think they can. I think Sydney actually win this one quite comfortably over the Bombers. So I'll take Sydney in this one quite easily. Then we have what could be one of the games of the round. There's probably two I'm looking at for game of the round, and we're going to start with this one, which is one of the Saturday night delights between the Gold Coast Suns and the Western Bulldogs on the Gold Coast. It's not from the Gold Coast, from Darwin. So Gold Coast getting their first Darwin game of the year against the Doggies, a team who play a lot of regional football themselves. Gold Coast are the Darwin specialists, and that's why the Gold Coast will be winning this one. Then we have the special match for the round. It is the showdown in South Australia. It is Port Adelaide versus the Crows, and there is really only one winner in this one. I think the Crows are just so far better side than Port Adelaide this year. I think Crows easily come to the showdown and take this one quite comfortably over the Power, who have looked lost over the last couple of weeks, and I think, as I said, ready to wave that right flag and wave Ken Hinkley goodbye at some point. Then we come to the Sunday games. We start with a real disappointing game to start our Sundays. It's Richmond versus West Coast, two of the bottom end teams for the year. It's in Melbourne, and I think that's going to be the deciding factor here. I think Richmond, based on the fact that it's in Melbourne, go over and beat West Coast in this one. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a grubby match. It's going to be a hard-to-watch match, but Richmond get the win here and get another win on the board for them. And we have the second half of our main event matches. The Gold Coast Suns, the Geelong Cats. I was still thinking about Gold Coast and Doggies from the first half of our main event. That is something that's shaping up to be quite interesting. Sorry about that. But it is Geelong versus GWS, and it's at the Cattery. So Geelong down there at the Cattery, very, very hard to beat. GWS, I know, will put in a good effort. They're a team who don't seem to struggle a lot when they travel, so they're a well-travelled side, and they'll put up an effort. But at the Cattery, I think Geelong, based on their recent performances, coming off that big win over Collingwood, I just think Geelong will get over the top of GWS as well at the Cattery. Then our final game for the round is North Melbourne versus Brisbane from Hobart, and this one really only has one winner, and that is the first place Brisbane Lions. Hobart, North Melbourne's had some success down there, but I think they are team who are just looking for a little bit of something to get some magic going. I don't think it'll be this week. They've got a tough match against Brisbane, and Brisbane will go down there and take the win, I think, relatively easily against a out of form, out of touch, lost-looking bunch of Kangaroos down in Tasmania. With 8 rounds down now, I think it is a good time to have a look at our first look on the BJ show of the AFL ladder. So we'll go bottom to top just like we have done previously. In last place is the West Coast Eagles. 0 wins, 8 losses for the Eagles. That's a very, very bad stat for them. They're in real danger of being in another position where they'll be looking at number 1 picks. And while it's great to amass young talent, you have to have something to do with it, and they have done nothing with the talent they've amassed down there. Coming up on 1 win on 4 premiership points is North Melbourne in 17th. Again, 1 win. That's, compared to where West Coast is, that's very good. Compared to the rest of the field, that's not great. I think they've been in a few games they could have definitely won, especially against Port and Essendon. So there's probably 2 games that have slipped away from them. 16th on 2 wins, we have Richmond, team who really right where they belong at this point. 2 wins is a very good amount for Richmond based on who they are and where they are at the moment. Then we have 3 teams on 3 wins, Melbourne, Sydney and Carlton. These are teams who I think probably could have been doing a lot better. Melbourne, I think 3 wins right now is right where they need to be. Sydney and Carlton, though, should be doing a lot better. Now we come to the stat. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, all on 4 wins. So Port Adelaide, Essendon, St Kilda and Fremantle, all sitting outside the 8 on percentage to GWS in the 4-win bracket. Then we move into the top 8. We have the teams on 5 wins, 7, 6, 5 and 4, all on 5 wins. That is the Cats, the Bulldogs, the Crows and the Suns, looking to build contending cases from there. And in 3rd place with 6 wins is Hawthorn. Again, a team who, as I said, have jumped the queue the last couple of years, got right back into the premiership mix. They have their 6 wins in a very strong position at the moment. Also on 6 wins are the Collingwood Football Club. very, very dominant start to the year for them. They need to continue it to look like the Collingwood of old. They probably should have a couple of premierships in the next couple of years with the group that they have got. And leading the list is the Brisbane Lions, who are on 7 wins and 28 premiership points. But that is everything I have for you.
All right, thank you, Aidan, for your thoughts and reviews for round 8 for each game of all 9 games of 18 teams, and as well round 9 all your restrictions each game up to 9 teams, and also showing after round 8 the AFL Premiership ladder from 18th to 1st, each team reviews and thoughts and how much they can improve. Alright, thank you so much, guys. This is part 1 of Aidan and BJ's reviews and thoughts. The next one will be BJ's coming up very soon. Stick by with all that for the part 2 episode of the Aussie Footy Show. And thank you so much once again, everyone who has listened. Yes, we do have a goal. I'm going to keep sharing this. So Facebook Podcasts is where you can go and get your the goal is 1,001k plus by mid-May or late May. All the latest episodes, make sure you like it, as well the Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts as well. So thank you so much, everyone who has listened so far in my episodes. We're absolutely on 841 plus in downloads. We are reaching 159 overall from this point. I'm working on each episode of doing a 2-part Aussie Footy shows. Aidan and BJ's and AFL Extra will be all in 1 week. In the National Agenda or the Australian Sport Edition show will be also all on time. Alright, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for your attention. And we'll see you very soon for the BJ's reviews and thoughts for round 8 and restrictions for round 9. And I'll also have done the BJ Show footy tipping and also my thoughts of round AFL Premiership ladder, as well as BJ shares that as well. Alright, thank you very much. The BJ Show's out.